U.S. government never allowed him into the United States except once for the International Pen Convention. I'm sure most of you know Pablo Neruda.
Mm-hmm.
Pablo Neruda, one of the greatest poets of the 20th century, won the Nobel Prize. And you may not know Gabriela Mistral. Gabriela Mistral was another Chilean poet. She won the Nobel Prize in 1945. Okay. This poem is very emotional for me because I knew people who were directly involved in a lot of these circumstances. This poem's called Death in Chile. And it starts off with a quote from Pablo Neruda, who's speaking to the soldiers of General Pinochet who are searching his home in Isla Negra. And Neruda says, "Look around. There's only one thing of danger for you here. Poetry." One. When poet Gabriela Mistral, Nobel laureate of Chile, died far from home in 1957, the president took to the airwaves on Radio Nacional, announced a poetic catastrophe. When the tiny cadaver arrived from afar, an elite guard escorted the casket to the Capitol Rotunda, where multitudes passed in respect for countless hours. Black-bordered banner headlines alerted everyone to the funeral period of mourning. After a service of imperial proportions, the poet's cortege wound ever so slowly through streets of Santiago. Black horses pulled the caisson with flag-draped casket. Following on foot, the president, his cabinet, the family, heads of church and military, lawmakers, governors, mayors, and thronging both sides of the poet's final route, more than 1 million citizens wept through flowers. From the windows above the procession, a weeping of petals floated down slowly, silently, like confetti tears. The national grief was broadcast live from Temuco to Arica, from Iquique to Puerto Montt, from Valparaíso to Punta Arenas, from Viña del Mar to Tierra del Fuego. Hushed tones of broadcasters whispered reverently over funereal tunes of endless musical units. Many held a book of poetry above their heads as if to give the words a last look at their progenitor. On the day of the burial, birds seemed to disappear from the skies of Chile's capital. 2. When the poet Pablo Neruda, Nobel laureate of Chile, died in 1973, it had been 2 weeks since the coup against democracy on September 11. But before his death, he heard President Salvador Allende, at the end of his breath, address the nation as the armed forces attacked La Moneda, the presidential palace. Quote, "Surely this will be the last opportunity I will have to address myself to you. Radio Magallanes will be silenced, and the calm metal of your voice, of my voice, will not reach you. It does not matter. You will continue to hear me. I will always be beside you. Or at least my memory will be that of a dignified man, that of a man who was loyal. Other men will overcome this gray and bitter moment where treason tries to impose itself. These are my last words. I am sure my sacrifice will not be in vain." Unquote. Before his death, soon after 9/11/73, Neruda heard of a last defiant song from folk singer Victor Jara before they broke his hands, along with his guitar, his neck. Before his death, soon after 9/11/73, Neruda heard that teachers were drugged from classrooms in mid-sentence. Before his death, soon after 9/11/73, Neruda heard the National Stadium hosted sports other than soccer, using thousands of tortured prisoners. As Neruda lay dying in hospital, soldiers broke into his Santiago home under orders of the military junta. They searched for the Nobel Prize to take turns wearing the medal around their necks as they destroyed windows and doors, plumbing and furniture, papers and photos, artwork and poems, books, even trees were burned in the garden. When she brought his body home to the wreckage, the widow Matilde grieved over the casket in front of the dead fireplace, shattered shards of glass covering the floor. On the poet's last journey through the streets of Santiago, even as the mounted police tried to beat them back, throngs of mourners joined the widow chanting, Pablo Neruda presente, ahora y siempre. Pablo Neruda presente, ahora y siempre. Pablo Neruda present, now and always. 4. After the books were burned, soldiers looked for missing words. But Neruda's words were smart. They hid among rocks, in the shadows of old buildings, arriving out of breath at places of safety, unseen niches, little by little. Some escaped, others went underground. A few words gave up an adverb here, a preposition there, to pay bribes at the border. Often they disguised themselves as words in other languages. An adjective like muerto pretended to be the German tot, or a noun like gaviota would dress up like the English word seagull. Some of his words came out of hiding to honor him at graveside, leaving the eyes in tears, other vowels defiant. On the day of the burial, birds seemed to disappear from the city of Santiago, the shore at Isla Negra. In Washington, Nixon and Kissinger read the CIA report of mission accomplished, toasted the rise of the dictator Pinochet, lit cigars in the East Room of the White House, surrounded by guards, words gone bad,